In this video, let's see about initial setup of configuration for the management interface for our Palo Alto Firewall. Alright, so in order to do the initial configuration setup for the management interface, we need to get into the device option. So click here and enter device option. By default, it will come to the setup. Under setup, there are multiple other informations, right? So click here under setup, we need to click interfaces. So when you click interfaces, you can see the option as like management. It is showing us like enabled, speed is auto negotiate, and the service which is allowed by default is HTTPS, SSH, and ping. Which means by default, if you want to access the Palo Alto firewall through the management network, you can either access through GUI using HTTPS. HTTP will never work. Same when you want to access through CLI, you can access through the SSH. Telnet will not work. Okay, and just to check the connectivity, ping is enabled. Right, this is the default option. It's not that we cannot make it to work for HTTP or Telnet. Yes, of course we can make it. However, this is the default option. Maybe I can show you. All right, so what it says, by default only HTTPS is allowed, right? Let me open one more tab and we'll try to access the same IP address using HTTP. Okay, HTTP. See, it will not work. Also, I'll do one thing. I'll just log into my putty, and this is the IP address of our device, right? So instead of SSH, let me make it as the telnet. Okay, so using port 23. If you see, it will not work. See here also in the HTTP also for response, we get a response like it cannot be reached, right? The same as in putty also, when we try to connect it through telnet, it will not get connected. Parallelly, if I open one more session and if I try to connect, see, we get an error message, the connection timeout message, because it is not connected through the telnet, because telnet is not allowed. I can access the same using SSH this time. Okay, so last time we made it others and we tried using 23, but this time I'm just trying to connect over SSH only. See, now it's working. It's allowing me to log into the device. All right, which means SSH is working. The same HTTP is not working. HTTPS is working. Okay, and also as I said, ping is allowed. 1092.168.0.132. All right, so ping is allowed. That's the reason we are getting a response here. Fine. So let's just click this option, management. So if you click the option, the first option is either you can configure this as a static or a DHCP client. Okay, so if you want to configure this as in static, just click here in a static. You can give any IP address. Means previously I have used this address so that it's still showing. Maybe I can delete it. All right, so currently but I'm using DHCP client only. All right, so maybe if you want to confirm it, I can show you from the dashboard. Currently it is in the DHCP client mode only. It's not in the static. The IP information whichever it shows here is because I typed it earlier, means I used it earlier so that it's showing, but when we opened it, right, it was in this option only. Okay, just for a confirmation to you, see, if you see the general information under my dashboard, it is showing that the IP address is 192.168.0.132 and it is using DHCP IP. All right, fine. So as I said, if you want to make a static configuration, static IP, you can add your IP addresses here. You can give a static IP, net mask, default gateway, and if in case you're using IPv6, you can have it configured here. All right. Speed by default it is an auto negotiation, and if you want to make changes on it, you can do it. And MTU by default it is 1500. All right. So, as I said, it is in the DHCP client mode, means it's in the DHCP mode. All right. And so before getting into this part, means HTTPS or Telnet, I just show you one more thing. If you see here, right, the client option. So the client option by default, it says that send host name. So when it request for the DHCP IP, right? So it will be sending the host name, this particular host name, this device host name for its identification. Maybe I can show you 1 minute. So we are connected over Wi-Fi. So I just filter with DHCP. All right, let it start capturing. In the meantime, what I'll do, there is an option as like show DHCP client runtime info, right? This shows the current information about the DHCP. Right, so it is telling your current IP address, subnet mask, gateway, and NTP, lease informations and all, right? So what I'll do, I'll just renew this address. Okay, so currently it is having 132. Maybe I'm not sure whether it will be getting the same IP or the other IP. Mostly I believe it should be the same IP, but still we'll renew it just to show you that when um, during the DORA process, we can see that this device will be sending the host name for the identification. All right, just click renew, and we'll see here in the capture. Will take few seconds. All right, to complete the DORA process. All right, I believe it's done. You see now this DORA process was done. So earlier it has an IP address 192.168.0.132, and this is my home router IP address. Okay, 192.168.0.1. It sends the release message, and post to release, if you see right, this DORA process was going on. So its IP address was released, then it sends the discover message and offer request acknowledgement. All right, so a thing is, I just want to show you here in the dynamic host configuration protocol, there will be something like option. Yep, if you see right in the option 12, in the host name, it is giving the identity of the device PAVM. All right, it is sending its identity to the DHCP server. Okay, and let's see what IP address it is given. Okay, this time also it got the same IP 192.168.0.132. All right, so let's close it for now. Okay, so let's check the current IP address by clicking here, show DHCP client run status. Yep, so this time also it got the same IP address 192.168.0.132. All right, fine. So one more thing here. So by default, as I said, by default, HTTPS SSH ping is allowed, right? So we'll make a few changes. It's like as we have tested earlier, HTTP didn't work. I'll just show you. I'll just enable HTTP, enable telnet, and earlier when we pinged, ping was working, right? So just to show you the difference, I'm disabling the network service ping, okay, and just clicking OK. So once I made changes, if you see right now, the services enabled services are HTTPS. Earlier it was HTTPS SSH and ping. Now we removed ping and we added HTTP and telnet. So we can click commit here. So once this commit is done, when we try to connect it using HTTP, even with the HTTP, we can see it is getting connected. Last time when we tried to connect with HTTP, it never worked. It worked only through HTTPS. But this time when we connect through HTTP, it will work. So as you know, it will take few seconds for this commit process. 98% was done. 99. Okay, in the meantime, I'll just go here and I click HTTP. So the IP address is 132, right? So before hitting enter, let me make sure that it is committed. Yep, it's right. It's committed. I'm just hitting enter here. All right. So if you see right, it's working. Okay, earlier when we tried to connect through HTTP, it was not working. However, this time once we make HTTP as an allowed application, means allowed service, then it started working. Same, if you remember last time when we tried to connect this over CLI using telnet, it was not working. However, this time when we if we try to connect through the CLI, means telnet, it will be working 192.168.0.132. So currently this is the IP address it is having, right? So this time I'm using others telnet using port 23. Okay, see, it's my login is prompt, right? So last time when we tried to connect it over telnet, it was not happening. Only SSH is working, but this time even with the telnet, it's working, right? Also, you can see one more thing. Last time when we tried to ping our Palo Alto firewall, it was reachable, right? We get an ICMP response because the network service ping was allowed, but now we have disabled it. So let's check, let's try to ping now. Though our Palo Alto is, operationally up, it's available, we can able to access it, but this time if we try to ping, we will not get any response. We'll be getting a request timeout because we have disabled the network service ping. All right, so whenever it receives the ICMP request, our Palo Alto device will not respond to it. All right, fine. Okay, so interface management. All right, if we see, right, HTTPS SSH HTTP telnet. Now what I'll do, I'll make it as a static IP. Means currently, so far it is a DHCP, right? DHCP client. It got from the DHCP from my home router. What I'll do, I'll configure an IP statically. So in order to configure an IP, I need to configure the IP informations here. Maybe I'll do one thing. So as I have shown you where we need to configure it. So if you want to do it from the GUI, this is the place where you need to add your IP addresses. IP address, netmask, default gateway. And if in case you're using IPv6, so this is the place where we need to do it. All right. So, but let's try to do the same using CLI, right? I'll log in to the CLI. Fine. So this is our CLI, right? That we connected. Fine. So what we need to do, we need to reassign the IP address, or we need to disable the DHCP client, and instead of a DHCP client, we need to configure a static IP address. All right. And before that, I can show you what type of services are allowed here. The show services. Okay. Config. Show system services. PC, right? So we have enabled HTTP, so that it's mentioned as like enabled. If we disable means, and if you see, right, ping, it's disabled. Sorry, ping, it's disabled now. So if we re-enable it, it will start to work. All right, that's fine. So let's see how to configure the IP address. Means let's see how to disable the DHCP client and to configure the static IP over here. So in order to do so, first of all, I need to get into the configuration mode. Okay. So in order to get into configuration mode, the command is configure. So once you type configure and hit enter, you'll be get into the configure mode, and you'll be seeing an option as like edit. Means basically it will allow you to edit the configuration changes. Okay. So currently it is in the default DHCP client mode. You can also validate it, though we have checked it in the this thing GUI. You can also check the same from here. Show system. Okay, we are in the configuration mode, as like Cisco, how we put specify do command in the configuration mode, right? Because in the Cisco, in the configuration mode, the show commands will not execute. So in order to execute the show commands, we'll be mentioning a do in before it, right? So as same, we can mention show. Okay, show system info. If you put show system info, it is having this IP, okay, currently with the DHCP, right? We want to make it a static one. All right. So we need to disable or to delete the DHCP client setup and to set the static. In order to do so, the command is delete device config system type DHCP client. So we are telling the system, like, you delete the device configuration system, which is the DHCP client, because currently it is a DHCP client, right? All right. So this is done, and instead of DHCP client, we want to give the static IP address, right? So in order to set the static IP or add a static IP, we need to put a command, use the command set. So if you see here, we used the command delete because we want to remove it, right? Delete it. But this time we want to set a new static IP, so that we are using a command set. Set device config system. The same thing. Type. If you put question mark, we have a DHCP client as well as the static. Use the command static, and you can give the hit enter. All right, hit enter. You are specifying that you are going to use the static IP. So in order to set the static IP, the command is set device config system IP address. So I need to specify the IP address. I'm just going to assign one IP address from the same subnet 192.168.0 dot. Earlier it was 132, right? So let me make it as like 192.168.0 dot 100 this time. All right. And the net mask should be /24. It's 255.255.255.0, and you can hit enter. Okay, so we have, earlier it was a DHCP client, so we have disabled it, means we have deleted it, and we have made it to act as a static mode, and we have specified the IP address. All right, so now we need to give the command commit. So as like same how we committed in the GUI, here as well, we can use the command commit. Okay, the same command. So in GUI also it mentioned as commit. In CL as well, we need to execute the commit. Right. We see, right, it's in progress. And one more important thing is, maybe I should have shown here. So Palo Alto allows us to configure multiple parameters in a same command. Say for example, in this command, right, I just configured IP address in the net mask, right? In addition to that, I can configure multiple information such like the DNS, the secondary DNS, NTP, and everything I can configure in the same line. All the device config of the system I can configure in the same line. If you put question mark, and you can add it to the same line, and it will be getting added to the configuration. All right, I could see it is 98 percentage now, and if you see, right, after 98 percentage it is not proceeding, because this particular session that we have connected to Palo Alto is using the old IP address 192.168.0.132, that we got it from the DHCP client. However, we have changed the IP address to a new static IP 192.168.0.100, and the new IP is implemented or committed post to our commit command, so that after 98, once the new IP takes in place, this session got closed. All right, so what we can do, we can just close this window, and also this one, if you refresh, right, you'll be seeing it's not, it will go unreachable. It will load for some time and it will go for unreachable. And as I get the new IP, let me try to connect it with the new IP address. It's 100, 192.168.0.100. Just to avoid confusion, just closing the nearby. See, with the 100, now it's asking us to give the login credentials. All right. See, as I said, this 132, the older IP, when you try to connect it, it's saying that the site cannot be reached because the IP address is changed now. All right. So as same, if you want, we can connect through CLI as well. 192.168.0.100 SSH. See, this time I'm able to connect with the new IP address. Admin @123. Right. Oh, sorry. So fine. Okay. So I'm in the config mode now. So we have changed it, right? So let's validate it from here once again. Okay. As I said, in the config mode, whenever you want to execute any show command, you can use run show system info. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not into configure mode. Show, I can directly go, because in configure mode, you will be seeing this ostrich command, right? So system info. See, this time it get a new IP address 192.168.0.100 and the IP assignment is static. Last time it was showing us like a DHCP. This time it is showing us like static. All right. You can also validate show interface management. Yep. Yeah. With the command show interface management, also you can check the IP address of the management interface is 192.168.0.100. All right. And this is the net mask. Fine. So we can also show you the same in GUI. So now we have connected through the latest IP, the new static IP. Once again, I'm getting into device interface. Okay, and I'll do one thing. I'll just means change it back as earlier. I'll enable ping and I'll make use only HTTPS and SSH. I'll disable this HTTP and telnet and enable ping once again. And one more thing, means we just forgot to give the default gateway 192.1. We can give this in the CLI as well, means one post to the net mask, right? We can put the command gateway and we can give it 168.0.1. Okay. And one more thing, means there is something like permitted IP addresses, right? If you want to add only a set of or a specific IP addresses or a specific subnet to access or to management to take the management of Palo Alto, you can do so. So say for example, you are having a multiple, either you're having a multiple people in your team, but you want this access to be provided only to specific users who is having a specific set of IP address. You can add their IP addresses and only the requests from those IP addresses are permitted to access this device using a management interface or management network. Okay, we can add multiple interface IP addresses and you can add descriptions to it. So this is one of the good feature. All right, so I have made few changes now. I'll just make it commit. So this is how we need to do the initial setup configurations for the management interface.